An absolute car crash waiting to happen. It's UFC Fight Night, Cannonier versus Rodrigues, happening this Sunday at 2 a.m. South African time. It's up next, this time on Fighting with Friends. Welcome back to Fighting with Friends, the undisputed African fighting podcast, champion of the world. And speaking of champions, ladies and gentlemen, I believe today the reigning, defending, undisputed vegan champion of the world, and our chief analyst, that is, of course, Brother Guy.
Greetings.
Also with us
Hope
today,
everyone-
ladies and gentlemen, the CPS FWF BMF champion of the world, unprofessional record now 24-0. It's Zim Albino, aka Babu. What's happening, boys?
Good.
You're on mute there, sir. But yeah, welcome back. It is Cannonier versus Rodrigues, and as always, boys, we start.
At the top of the card.
God, and here it is, Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier, of course, 17-8 on a 2-fight slide. Last fight outlost to Cal Baralio by unanimous decision, and only by the graces of God not getting finished there. Very close to it. Coming up against RoboCop, our boy Gregory Rodrigues, who's 16-5 on a 3-fight streak. Last time out beating Christian Leroy Duncan by unanimous decision. So this looks like a car crash waiting to happen, as I alluded to in the preview. PG, is that a fair statement? How do you see this one playing out, bro?
Absolutely. I think when Gregory Rodrigues is in a fight, it's always some kind of car crash. Granted, in his last few fights, he looked a little bit more composed, particularly in the fight against Leroy Duncan. I thought Rodrigues showed some composure in that fight, a little bit more poise, a lot more accuracy to his strikes. And then I'd like to see that side of Rodrigues, because we know that he always has the car crash in his back pocket. If he wanted to, he can make the fight very reckless and put it into his favor, because he loves that kind of reckless fights. But seeing him level up the way he had in his last fight is very impressive. A lot like what people are talking about Dricus's performance in the last fight. It's like he's not as chaotic as what people think all the time. So I'm very intrigued for this matchup. I do think that if Gregory wins this fight, he puts himself in the top 7, top 6. Is he ranked at the moment? I don't think so.
No.
He's not ranked at the moment. So I mean, if he wins this fight, he can go up there and climb that, put a number next to his name for sure. Because I think he smokes a lot of the top 15 guys. But fighting Jared Cannonier is no easy game, because Cannonier is also so well experienced. I mean, he's been in there against Easy for the title before. He's fought Whittaker. He's fought, the best guys. He beat Sean Strickland, fought Marvov, fought against Vittori. So he's got the wealth of experience against the top guys in the middleweight division. So going up against him, even though his age is what it is, I know he's touching 40. Cannonier still has the thing to beat anyone really. You mentioned Caio Braulio in your preview 80, and yes, by the grace of God, he did survive it. But that is also testament to this man. I mean, he puts in a lot of effort, puts a lot of work into being into that top of the division. So yeah, I see the fight playing out. I'm gonna tip it towards Gregory Rodrigues. I think he's a bit more of a killer. That being said, Cannonier can knock out anybody. He's got the power to do it. He's just a bit sluggish in how he strikes. You know what I mean? He's like one shot kind of guy instead of like a combination. Maybe 1-2 is most he's gonna give you, maybe a kick also. But Gregory Rodrigues is the kind of fighter that he doesn't just throw one strike at a time. He wants to put the pace on you. So I see the fight playing out that way. I think Gregory Rodrigues is gonna actually put the pace on Cannonier and possibly get that finish. It's a very high chance he's probably going to get that finish, because Cannonier does get knocked. He does get knocked down, as we've seen in his previous fights. He does get knocked down, and Gregory Rodrigues hits extremely hard. So one of those clean shots that he throws can Cannonier out of there. So I'm going to go with that prediction for this fight. Is Gregory Rodrigues to get the job done? I'm not sure which round, but I think he's gonna stop Cannonier.
Yeah, fair play, BG, because there is also this narrative coming into this fight about the kind of the cumulative damage that Cannonier has taken in his last 2 fights against Baralio. Like I said, getting very close to finish. Fair plays to his durability. And then also the Malvo fight, he also got dropped, I think, and also took quite a bit of damage there. So, yeah, he has taken quite a bit of damage. Age is against him. But Babu, from your side, do you see any path to victory for the Killer Gorilla here?
I think it's just like getting everything back on track. I think like he was quite a force to be reckoned with before he ran up against Adesanya, and I think it was
Mm.
just
Yeah.
in that in that self belief, in believing in himself to push the pace, land good hard shots. Like BG said, he's not the type of fighter to like put a lot of combinations together, but he can pick you apart when need be.
Mm.
And I think since the Adesanya fight, a lot of people like really waited for him to like how can I say, initiate the combinations and go forward. But he's not that type of fighter, so you might land once and you retaliate against him with 2, 3 shots, and it sets
Mm.
off his rhythm. So then he loses a bit of like his fighting rhythm, and then I think like for him to get back on track, I think it's just putting together decent combinations, looking for the right shot and landing the bomb. And as much as I agree with PJ, I do think the RoboCop gets the job done, but I never count Cannonier out, and he's such a
Mm.
dog, like
Mm.
hard to put him away. And
Yeah.
when you can put him away, I think it's a massive feather in your cap.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is extremely durable.
Fact.
And the other side of the narrative to this fight is that RoboCop has never gone 5 rounds in the UFC.
Mm.
So, and I mean, no
Good point.
Cannon fought for 5 rounds. So, BG, if
Yeah.
it goes beyond 3 years, do you see a possible out for Cannonier? Does it
I
have to
do.
be a finish for our boy RoboCop? Or
Yeah, I
what?
think RoboCop is probably going to try because it's a very good point. And we have look, like I said in that last fight against Lilo Duncan, he did go very well for that 3 rounds, but it was only 3 rounds. And the pace is probably going to be similar to the pace in this fight as well because Lilo Duncan also, like Cannonier, doesn't throw too many combos. It's very explosive kind of strikes at you, one at a time. I think for Cannonier, if it goes past maybe even the second round, I think there's a big chance for Cannonier because of that championship experience. And also, you asked Babu about what could be a key to victory. I would say key to victory for Jared Cannonier here is to take the legs out because he has a very mean low kick on him. Cannonier kicks very fucking hard. And his low kicks are very smooth. So I think if he can take the legs of Gregory Rodrigues, which is one of his weak points of Rodriguez, take out his legs, he's got a very good chance of winning the fight. He just has to survive that onslaught that Robocop brings you in that first 10 minutes because he's a bit of a tornado in that first 10 minutes. It's scary to fight against him there. So I think that's going to be the make or break for both fighters. Is after that 10 minutes.
Nicely done, BG. Babu, final word to you here.
Uh, I, I think that the RoboCop gets the job done, but I expect a good fight. I think like it would run just like into the third or maybe the fourth round. So I don't expect the early finish.
Hmm.
So anyone giving this fight a chance of going the distance?
I would. Cannonier is
You
quite a durable man, and Robocop is not going to hit him with something that he hasn't fought before. So it's just how many times can Robocop land that powerful hits, and if he is able to put Cannonier out, like I said, massive feather in his cap, but it's very hard to finish Cannonier. So I would say safe bet is like going the distance here.
I think Bob would say that for the parlay.
BG, any
Yes,
thoughts
sir.
on that? You think there's any chances one goes the distance?
Um, there is a slight chance, but that's a very. Oh, I can hear myself. Um, I can hear feedback. Anyway, I do think that the chance of them going the distance is slim, but there is that chance. But
Yeah.
difficult for me seeing it, to be honest with you. I think both these guys can put each other out.
Yeah, I've also got this down as a kind of kill or be killed fight. It's like either
Uh,
G-Rod gets it done in the first
yeah,
two, Cannonier finishes him late in the fourth or fifth for me. But yeah, I
feel the
mean,
same way.
that's what we always seem to be saying. We said the heavyweights wouldn't go the distance a few weeks back, so you just never know these days.
The thing is also, 80, what actually helps Babu's statement is that the fight that Rodriguez fought before this against Leroy Duncan was almost similar to what we're going to see in this matchup. Big guys, big power punches, and that fight went to the distance. So, and Cannonier is a very safe, sound kind of fighter. He's got very good defense. Not many people are able to put him away. what Imavov and Baralho did to him is not often you see that against Cannonier. So yeah. Although that Rodriguez he's wild. He's a wild fighter, and it's scary to see that. So, but yeah, it's hard to put Jared Cannonier away. It's very difficult to do that.
Okay, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let us know in the comments how you see this one playing out, of course. But boys, if there is nothing else on this one, then we will keep it moving to the featherweight division. And here we see the return of Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar, of course, 23-8, last fight out against Aljo Sterling, where he lost by unanimous decision. He's coming up against Yusuf Zalal, 16-5-1, won 3 fights in 2024, all by submission, last time out beating Jack Shaw in the second round. So we were talking about this guy earlier this morning, boys, doing a bit of research into him. So I'll go to Babu. Tell us what you found on this Yusuf Zalal guy, and how do you see this one playing out there?
I think like just looking over a couple of his fights and looking at his like journey so far, it seemed like he was a hot prospect. He got tossed in there against Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria showed him levels and absolutely dominated him. And then since then, he just went on like a bit of downward spiral, got cut from the UFC, went into, I think it was Sparta Combat, got a couple of finishes there, and then got called up for a short notice fight against Billy Quarantero, and then came in there, choked out Billy, and then since then, like, got a fight soon afterwards against Jono Irians, choked him out as well, and then they gave him Jack Shaw. He blasted Jack Shaw with a shot Jack Shaw didn't see coming, and then ended up choking him out also. So like a lot of the research shows that like he's an unknown quantity, but also he's quite, his submissions is, once he locks it up, it's basically good night for you. And he seems like a guy that can take a shot, because like we all know, Ilia Topuria carries massive heat in his hands, and for Ilya to then hit him with a couple of bombs and him not to go out, it's something to be seen. And when you look over his record, like all of the losses that he does have, it's by decision. So it shows he's also cut from that Jared Cannonier cloth, where it's just hard to put them away. The thing that works for him is that he has like his path to victory is, once he grabs a hold of you, he has a nice arsenal of submission chokes that he can put you in, and he knows how to lock them up.
So, BG, you spoke about his gas tank a little bit earlier. Also, you said you were quite impressed with that. Maybe you could just tell people a bit more about that, and also how you see this one playing out.
Absolutely, Eddie. The reason why I was speaking about that gas tank, just to touch base on that Ilia Topuria fight, I'm not sure if you guys know, but that fight was during the time of COVID. Zalal didn't have a corner. He didn't have a coaching staff. He didn't have a team for that fight. So he flew out alone to fight in Abu Dhabi against Ilia Topuria that day, and he survived all 3 rounds. If anything, if you go watch that tape back, Bob was right. He survived those bombs. He got out of 4 submissions over the course of 2 rounds. And then in the 3rd round, he actually turned the fight into his favor. We had Ilia Topuria going backwards. Ilia was actually gassed, and he was like, oh my word. And he had to survive. He was panic wrestling in that 3rd round. That shows me that without the camp, without training staff, this guy has that kind of stamina. You know what I mean? And then to see him fight, to see his performances when he came back into the UFC, I was right. He's got 6 submissions, very good trained wrestling. Not even his best attributes, he's got fantastic kickboxing as well. The move that he threw against Jack Shaw was that step knee. Basically threw Jack Shaw into a different universe. Jack Shaw was a prospect in the time when they fought that fight. Jack Shaw was on the streak. So it's like, this, you know what I mean? So I'm happy that I was able to do the research, because at first coming to this fight, but I was like, who the hell is Yusuf Zalal? Calvin Kattar on a downward spiral, ranked number 10, was ranked number 5, just like 2 years ago. I was like, oh, a bit boring. But then doing research on Yusuf Zalal, I was like, okay, I can see why. If I'm not mistaken, also, he's indeed the favorite in this fight against Calvin Kattar.
Yeah, overwhelming favorite. So he's a big favorite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's actually, I can see why. I mean, he's on a 3-fight win streak and 3 very good fights. Calvin Kattar didn't win his last fight, unfortunately. But with Calvin Kattar from the New England cartel guys, they got good boxing. We see it the way he boxes. We see the way Rob Font boxes. They've got a good team of boxers out there. But this is MMA at the end of the day, and we do know Calvin Kattar is not the greatest of wrestlers. He's just he's a competent defensive wrestler. So he obviously wants to be there. He wants to stand and bang. But Zalal has got one of the best, not one of the best. He's got really good footwork in the way he moves laterally. That comes from a kickboxing fighting style. So I think Calvin Kattar might just come up short here. I don't know if he's going to lose via stoppage, but I think he's going to lose the fight. I think Zalal's going to put on a very good performance against him. It's hard to stop Calvin Kattar. Aljamain Sterling couldn't tap him out. Max Holloway couldn't knock him out. He's not easy to stop, so he's very durable, and I think he's just going to get outpointed in this fight.
Bobby, do you share that sentiment, or can you see any way to victory for our boy Calvin Kattar?
I think his way to victory is like BG said, just rely on the boxing, and then like keep the movement going. Try to keep Zalal at distance. I really don't know, because I think Zalal offers something that Kattar hasn't seen yet in the UFC, and that's somebody with a very strong, like not a wrestling game, but a submission game. And I think the difference between Zalal and Aljamain Sterling is Zalal is looking to set up like submissions, where Sterling is rather looking to wet blanket you and wrestle you and chain wrestle you and throw out your gas tank. So I think like it will be a tough fight for Kattar, but I do believe that he has the experience. He's been in the big fights. He's fought against people that can throw massive bombs like Josh Emmett, like Max Holloway. So I do think there's nothing that's going to shock him in terms of power. It's just about how you can, if it does come down to wrestling, can you negate going straight to bottom? Are you able to like somehow tire out Zalal and then get the victory via decision or by a late KO?
Nicely done, Pablo. BG, final word on this one goes to you, and then we'll keep it moving.
It's a very interesting fight to watch. I'm actually quite excited for that co-main event, to be honest with you, because Calvin Kattar is never really in any boring fights unless he's getting wrestled for 3 rounds. But he's always in exciting fights when it's standing. I think Zalal's going to want to put on a show, and I think he's going to try and mix up quite a bit of offense against Kattar, which is going to make for a fantastic fight to watch. So I'm quite intrigued and excited for that one.
Yeah, Calvin Kattar, of course, starting as the 4-1 underdog in this fight. So keep a lookout for the parlay episode tomorrow. We might have some business to discuss, boys. But okay, we'll keep the business going. And BG, I believe you wanted to briefly touch on a few other fights, so I'll hand it over to you now.
Okay, cool. So I wanted to touch base on the Edmund Shabazian versus Dylan Budka fight, but not necessarily to kind of give in depth about these two fighters, because both these guys are coming off a loss. Mainly, I'm talking about the fight because I feel like its placement on the card is a bit unfair to all the other fighters on the card, because there are some other fights on the card that have some very high profiles. For me, it's deserved of being a little bit higher up the card. So this fight, just to give a prediction, I think Edmund's going to win, but it doesn't really matter. What I really want to draw your attention to is the opening fight on the fight card. That's the very first fight of the night between Julia Avila versus Jacqueline Cavalcante. Because both these fighters are ranked. Both of them are actually quite entertaining to watch. Granted that Julia only fought, the last fight was in 2023, but I remember that fight was against Michelle that she got tapped out. But she's quite an aggressive and fun fighter to watch. Whereas Jacqueline, if people don't know, she's on a 7-fight win streak at the moment. She's got, I think, 3 fights in the UFC. Won all 3 of those fights really well. Powerful puncher, very good kickboxer, really good striker, entertaining fighter to watch. So I think why I'm drawing my attention to that one is because there's some good implications for the division on this fight. And if you guys go and watch there are some reels that we posted that I was talking about the women's divisions in the UFC and why we should actually have more women fighters on the fight card instead of just 1 or 2 women fights. And this one's a high profile fight, so it should have actually been higher up on the card for me personally, and that's why I just want to touch base on that one. A good fight to look out for is this fight.
Okay, thanks, PG. And speaking of the women's fighters, Babo, there was another women's fight that you wanted to touch on, Angela Hill versus Caitlin Souza.
Yes, sir. Angela Hill, veteran of the UFC. Beast, like you know her name. Caitlin Souza, the young up and comer. Caitlin Souza looks like a force so far, but she is a bit of a Angela Hill to a game where like they win a couple, they lose, they win a couple, they lose. So far Caitlin Souza riding a 2-fight win streak can make it the third, and then we are like we just saw in this past weekend, like the women's division is a bit shallow. So anybody can make a run at that title, and Caitlin Souza could string like this victory together with another one, and then she could be in that contender spot.
All right, give thanks, Pablo, and give thanks to the boys, and give thanks to our subscribers. If you haven't made it this far, please don't forget to like the video, share the video, and if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the channel. We're on the way to 1,000 subscribers, and we'd be really grateful if you could help us make that happen. But ladies and gentlemen, from myself, BB, boys, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, just looking forward to these fights, bro. It's not that bad of a card. There are some fights in there that's quite enjoyable to watch. It will look to be quite enjoyable to watch. So yeah, let's give it a chance.
There we go. Give it a chance, Babu. Any final thoughts?
Weird fucking card, bro. Both main event and co-main event, you have ranked fighters as underdogs. So looks like that parlay episode is something to look out for.
It is indeed, and we will be back with the parlay episode tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Please keep an eye out for that one. Before I lose my ability to speak, I'm going to wrap it up here. So thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Have a fantastic week. Enjoy the fights. And we are out of here.